So are you an artist and you're wondering if ChatGPT and AI, artificial intelligence, are going to replace artists? Are you wondering how to succeed in the art world today? And are you wondering, is there a possible way to use AI to your advantage? So in today's podcast, I'm going to go over all of that. And I also have a list of 7 of your questions. Thought we would go over those. And this whole topic of AI is very controversial. It's a big, timely question. It's an important question for us as artists. So be sure to listen to this entire podcast. I'm going to be giving you some super important practical advice on how to navigate the world of AI and what to watch out for, and also some encouragement of how to prosper and thrive in a world that's constantly changing. So now some examples of AI. For example, you could ask an AI tool to create you a birthday cake. And then you'd get a result. You'd say, I want a birthday cake with candles and a certain color frosting. And boom, there you get a result. Another example of artificial intelligence generated art is where you might ask the AI tool to create a beautiful woman with makeup and flowers, and then you're going to get a result. And how about a man created with the prompts of AI and nervous and worried and computer, and then you get this result here. You get this man who's like looking panicked at his computer. And I think we might all feel a little bit worried. Where is AI going? Well, that's what we'll cover in today's topic. And welcome to the Artist Life podcast with Dena Tollefson, and I am so glad that you're here today. So let's get started with our questions. Okay, so the first question 1, what is AI, and is AI the same thing as ChatGPT? All right, so AI is short for artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is when a machine has been trained by computer programmers and engineers to do some things that humans might do. And it is both scary and exciting at the same time. And you likely have seen some examples of some computer-generated AI artwork. And seeing this happen in the art world has many people worried it's going to end their art career. But let's talk about that today. So I was trained as an engineer before I left engineering when I was 47 to pursue art full-time. So since the year 2000, I had been in art galleries and then gradually said, okay, you know what? I want to do this full-time. So I have been doing art full-time for over a decade. And it's one of those things where being a former engineer and being a current artist, I find this whole topic of the intersection between technology and art and how they intersect and artificial intelligence, I find this whole topic very fascinating. So there are some common AI programs, and you might be familiar with some of them that are out there right now. Jasper, Starry AI, Dream by Wombo, Big Sleep, Night Cafe, Deep AI, Art Breeder, DALL-E, and the list goes on and on. So ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence tool, and what you can do is you can give it a couple prompts and ask it to write you a sonnet. You could also ask it to write you a computer program. But what is really kind of fascinating or neat about the newest version of ChatGPT is that it can work from a photo alone. So you could have show it a photo of your counter, and you had maybe some eggs and milk and something like that on your counter, and you said, what can I make with those? And the answer it would come back with would be, you could make pancakes, waffles, and it would list some things that you could make. And that was all just based on a photo. And something else it can do is, let's say that you had a balloon, a bunch of balloons and a string, and they were being held by a rock, and you were to say to the tool, what would happen if I would cut the string? And the tool says that the balloons would float away. Well, that is just shocking as far as what the technology can do. It's shocking and exciting. So this newest version that can make decisions based on a photo only is called logical inference. Okay, so let's get on to the next question. Question 2. How does AI work? All right, so You could ask an AI program to, for example, let's say you ask it to create a bunny and some eggs, and it's going to be an Easter bunny. Maybe you ask it for some certain colors, and boom, it's going to give you a result. And you wonder, well, my goodness, how does it do this? Well, these programs are extremely sophisticated, and it might feel like they just kind of come out of nowhere. But in reality, these programs have been developed over decades, and they're just now coming into popularity within the public. But we're seeing an explosion of AI in movies, in songs, in presentations, you name it. We're seeing an explosion of AI-generated content out there. And it has some people excited and it has some people worried. So an AI tool has to be, and they call it training, or you train the tool. And what that involves is, for example, in an art AI, is that the tool will have been trained by showing it maybe tens or hundreds or thousands, maybe millions of images. And all of this data goes into the memory and into the processing of this AI tool. And that is how it can go and generate something new. So it is basically iterating. It's going and it's looking and saying, what does it have? So you can iterate with it. You can say, oh, I like this, but now what about this? Or change this or do this. And it will iterate for you, and it will make different versions. But ultimately, what the tool is doing is it is taking, in some case, millions, if it goes and scrapes the internet for images, it is taking all of these things of all of the artists in the past, back from, the first time that we were able to capture images of something, of artwork. It is gathering all of these images, putting them all together, and just like humans, some tools are better than others. Some humans are better at others at certain things, but not one tool can do everything. Not one human can do, unless it's Jesus and God, not one human can do everything. And AI is susceptible to what is called, kind of like with humans, we humans can have delusions, or we could have hallucinations. Same thing is true with AI. So what can happen with the AI, there are a couple different ways that it could have a delusion or hallucination. One of them would be as if it would do something just kind of out of, a crazy answer. That would be an example where you asked it for A and it gives you B or C, something completely unexpected that would be wrong. Another way that it could have an illusion or a hallucination or a delusion would be as if it would give you something unexpected from what you were expecting. And those are considered faults in the program, and the programmers and computer programmers and engineers are always working to improve the tool. One of the ways that the tool does improve is with additional training. So my son Will, has a YouTube channel. He's a computer programmer, and he has several videos out on the topic of ChatGPT and artificial intelligence and how that relates from the software programmer side. So be sure to check those out. I'll put a link to Will's channel in the description here. So check those out after you see this. Okay, so now that we have answered questions about what is AI and how does it work, let's go on to the third question. All right, so third question. Will AI take over the world? All right, that's an excellent question. At this point, absolutely no. But in the future, if unregulated, there is a potential for some AI to become problematic for society. And we're going to have guardrails in place to make sure that that doesn't happen. And so technology leaders like Elon Musk and other leaders have been giving this a lot of thought and have been talking about it a lot recently. And AI is not going anywhere. So more about that later. Let's get to the next question. Okay, question 4. How can I succeed in the art world now? So this gets to the heart of survival. And we as artists, we adapt, We know how to survive. We can survive and adapt. This is something, we've got this. We can do this. So I want you to think about this. When the camera obscura was developed back around the year 4000 BC, many artists of that time thought, all right, that's the end of the art world because now you don't need skill anymore. You could project an image directly onto something else and you didn't have to have the drawing skills needed. Well, that was not true that art world was ending, and it's not true now. And we know that that is not true. Some artists trace, some even maybe with a projector, and some artists don't. And you know what? That's okay. And if you're around my age, you remember when computers came into use. And a lot of artists at that time said, oh my goodness, that's the end of the art world because now all art is going to be computer generated. And we know that that is not true and that didn't happen. And some art is computer generated now, or it aids us, it helps us as artists. And some artists don't use computers at all when they generate art, and that's okay too. So with giclée and printing technology came into a new level in the 1990s where individual artists could go and do a digital print and sell digital prints of their work. Once that happened in the 1990s, there were so many people. It was a huge controversy. So many people were upset about this. And they said that the art world has changed forever. And now the fact that just any artist could go and sell a print of their artwork, that cheapened the art world. And that artists that would never be the same. And, everything is going to hell in a handbasket. It was just a terrible thing. Well, that was not true. That was a major shift in the art industry. And many said it would put an end to artists because now instead of having one person or committee or small groups or small printers having individual gallerists decide who was worthy of getting art prints, now the masses could make their art prints. And that would cheapen art and people would never be able to sell again and no one would know who was good and who wasn't good. Well, my goodness, that was not true at all. And some artists have made prints of their work, and some artists have not, and that's okay. So when people find out that a piece of artwork was made 100% through AI, they usually have two reactions. The first reaction is they're surprised that a computer could make this artwork 100%. The other thing that they have, the other reaction that they have is the interesting one. They're usually disappointed. People are disappointed when there is not a face behind the artwork. But instead of one face behind the artwork, it's a conglomeration. It's a trained computer that has, hundreds or maybe millions of art images from the past that have trained it into making this particular piece of artwork. They're disappointed by that. People want it to be something made by an individual. And I'll say that is very good news for us as artists. And people who buy artwork love the idea that there is a person behind the artwork. They love that connection that they have and the idea that someone is making this art and that there's an actual individual behind it. They love the idea that someone real made the art. And I think the most encouraging thing out of all of this is that artificial intelligence will not replace artists because there will always be a need for beauty, a need for intention, a need for someone to create something as an individual, and people value that and then want to connect with that. There's always going to be a need for what we as artists in our head and in our heart, what we translate into paper, what we translate onto the canvas, what we translate into clay. And people, especially now, want to connect with something that's real. And I really feel like that's a reason why Etsy and Saatchi and art galleries, whether they're online or they're brick and mortar art galleries, why they are still flourishing, why they are doing so well, is because people love this idea of of knowing what the artist's reputation is, knowing a bit about the artist. A lot of people want something that is made by hand rather than mass-produced. And that is going to be true as it's true now. That's going to be true in the future, even as we go through with AI. And that should make us all feel really good as artists. Okay, so now let's do another question. All right, so question 5. How do I compete with AI? Okay, that's another great question. All right, and I think that the key to competing with AI is always knowing that people will always choose a human over a computer. And people do not buy artwork because it's technically good, although I guess some people will buy things because they're technically good, but they're often buying things because of the reputation or a connection they feel to that artist. And so I am sure that you have been somewhere where you're looking around and you're like, you know what? I can make that artwork. Why is that artist getting so much money for that particular piece of artwork? And it's not because that artist necessarily was skilled or not skilled. It's because of the market value of the artwork that they have, the comps that they have built up over time, the reputation that they have. And if you've subscribed to my YouTube channel, you know that I speak a lot about this idea of an artist's reputation, how we have to protect it, we have to nurture it, we have to grow it, because our reputation as an artist is really everything. So whether your goal is to have an exhibit in your local library, in a coffee shop, if you want to get into a juried exhibit, maybe you have a goal to be represented at an art gallery. Maybe you have a goal that you'd like to be in a group exhibit at a museum, or maybe you'd like to have a solo exhibit at an art museum or be in their permanent collection. All of those are worthy goals, and all of those are goals that we can work on through our art reputation. And art sales and art prices are not based on skill. I mean, we always want to be improving our skills as an artist. So art sales and art prices, getting into galleries, getting into museums, that type of thing really has to do with our reputation as an artist. Okay, so you might be wondering, how do I go about improving my reputation as an artist? Well, there are multiple things that you can do for that. One thing is to always try and be exhibiting. Get your artwork out online. Get your artwork out in person. Attend your local art guild. Find art galleries near you and go to their shows. Meet other artists. Meet gallery owners. Go to your local art museum or museums far away. Exhibit at your local events. Exhibit, look and see if you can apply to exhibit somewhere, maybe across the country, across the globe. Get your art out there. Being on social media, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. These are all ways that we can grow our art. We can sell our art. We can be known. Okay, so this is a path that you can grow your reputation, and it's not the only path. Only you can decide how it is that you're going to grow your art reputation. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. Question 6. I am a graphic designer. How do I use AI to my advantage? Okay, so consider embracing AI. And not using AI to replace your art or your artist's mind or your skills, but consider using it as a way to kickstart a project that you're working on. So I had mentioned some of the AI tools that are out there. Consider looking into one or several of them if you haven't already. And you might find that it is a method for you to improve your workflow as a graphic designer. It might be a way for you to also generate new ideas. Take those ideas, curate them, make them your own by modifying then what is initially generated, and then turn that into a brand new product. So, consider that. That might be a way to go. All right, so last question, question 7. I am a painter. How can I use AI to my advantage? All right, so as a painter, something to think about is you may or may not be already using some digital tools like Photoshop. There might be some other digital tools that you're using to maybe play with compositions, consider different colors before you put them into your artwork. But consider possibly using AI tools to do a similar kind of idea. Maybe there is a composition that you've always wondered about or trying different things. You could consider playing with those in AI before you then commit to your own original work of art, where you take those ideas and then you now present them in your own way, in your own style. So the key here is adaptation and embracing, and being flexible and thinking about these tools not as a scary thing, but maybe something that might make our life as artists a little bit easier. And we as artists are good at adapting and embracing. So I hope that you've enjoyed today's podcast, and I hope that if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, you'll consider doing so. And come on back again. I've got a lot of great content for you. So until next time, it's Dena Tollefson, and all my best to you. Bye-bye.